Pakistani army has had the culture of control for, this is well known. So it's not something which is there. They have controlled the country. What are the major points in time where they've actually built up this sort of a culture of politics within itself, of hard-lined approach towards one person, soft-line approach towards ये जो this whole ये जो culture इन लोगों ने create किया है सर, ये कब कब हुआ? When did it happen, sir?
It reminds you of the fact that, after all, the Pakistan army and the Indian army came from one stock. They came from the British Indian Army, and which had a history, in an organized role. It had a history of the better part of almost 3 centuries, 2.5 to 3 centuries. So, how did the Pakistan army go different ways in a different way, and the Indian army developed differently? Well, let's have a look at the broad waypoints from 1947 onwards when it happened. 47, 48, everyone knows. We went to war immediately. It was not the organized Pakistan army which went to war. It was the tribals who came to war. The Pakistan army leadership was there, of course, which ultimately became a rogue leadership later on. They were there. And from 48, 49 onwards till 1958, it had a checkered rise. A reorganization had to take place. It had received a lot of assets from India, funding, etc. So it was reputed to be a very, very professionally and highly rated army, disciplined to a great extent. Almost everything is similar to the Indian army. But it just happened that in 1958, by 1958, in 10 years' time, they had the people were getting fed up because somehow the government of Pakistan couldn't get its act together. The leadership did not seem to have got settled, unlike India. Everyone was watching India. Here, the leadership was settled. You had the requisite talent with you available. A lot of people went away. I don't think a lot of people realized that there was a thing called Pakistan which had really come up. I'm reminded of that very famous story, if you remember. I think we've spoken about it before also, that the person who was appointed as the Chief Justice of the Pakistan Supreme Court thought that he would like to function from Delhi. Why should he go? Why? He says ये तो कल की बात है, ये तो सब कुछ तो वापस आने वाला है. Nothing is going to change here. So he said he would rather stay in Delhi and function from there. No one believed this. This aspect that Pakistan was born and going to be a permanent state. Similarly, the Pakistan army, they never probably thought initially that this is a permanent change and that there's going to be an army by itself. There was a coterie of officers, and this is something which has been a part of their history. Uh, Radical, extremist in their ideas and views, very, very religious, some of them. These are the people who actually guided the destiny of the Pakistan army right in the beginning.
Hmm.
Ayub Khan was not a radical. I won't call him a radical. In 1958, when he came to power by overthrowing the civilian government at that time, ultimately became a field marshal himself. He was a whiskey drinking, um, you know, very, very evolved kind of a Muslim, and nothing radical about him at all. But as you go along, you realize that the Pakistan army started getting radicalized. 65, they lost the war. No, I mean, it was a stalemate, and somehow they created this idea that as if the Pakistan army was much superior to the Indian army, which had lost the war to the Chinese in 1962. Uh, it created a humbug. They created something for the rest of the nation as if a huge victory had been gained. Deluding themselves. This was always a part of Pakistani army's culture, deluding themselves or something like that. And 71, they lost badly, but 71, even today, if you speak to senior Pakistan army officers of that time and even of today, they will tell you they never lost the war.
Yeah.
हम नहीं हारे. You all deceived us. It is the
Politicians.
Bengalis who deceived us. वो मुक्ति बहनी की मदद लेकर आप लड़ाई जीत गए, तो ये कोई लड़ाई थोड़ी जीतना होता है. I mean, for them it was as if they had won the war. They said, देखो वेस्ट में क्या हुआ था. So this is a habit that the Pakistan Army has created for itself. Deluding itself all the time. We are the best. And this is the reason why they came out of this defeat so quickly. You really find this kind of a thing happening, where you
Yeah.
find that in 6 years' time, the Pakistan Army was back to where they were. Those 6 years, 5, 6 years when Bhutto was ruling, it looked as if they've gone into a bit of a shell, etc. But as soon as the nuclear test took place in 1974, the Pokhran test took place in 74, once again they got an opportunity to tell everyone and they came back with a bang. And this time they realized that to rule the roost, they needed to use the faith ideology. That would ensure that Pakistan remained united. After all, Islam was the unifier. And that's how the Pakistan Army got radicalized. Ziaul Haq used that armed corps officer, modern, again a whiskey drinking officer. But slowly, all this went behind. And you found that in the Afghanistan conflict, they got in themselves involved, uh, very deeply involved into that hybrid ways of war. It was not an upfront war. After all, Afghanistan was not an upfront war. It was a war of different means. It was one of the very first hybrid wars of that kind, modern hybrid wars. And they got tremendously experienced. And that is what they used against us in 1989 to launch the war in Afghanistan. They're tremendously experienced in all these things. Very good conflict initiators. Very good conflict initiators. They can deceive anyone. They can get the better of anyone at the beginning. But one of the worst terminators. They have no idea how to finish a situation, a battle. Cannot remain in a position of strength. Somehow they by some means or the other they mess it up at the end, and this has happened invariably. If you see 1965, 1971, it's happened in Kargil, it's happened everywhere. So in 2611 also, for example. So you see, without thinking through something, this is a typical characteristic of the culture of the Pakistan Army. Without thinking through the launch, sometimes it can be to great advantage, where the initial impact that you make may just carry you through, but in most opportunities you will find that that will not happen. And today, of course, they continue to rule the roost by being in the backdrop. And the last point on this very important aspect is they know how to make money, right? Money is something which attracts the Pakistan Army Officer Cadre hugely, and they've done very well in the United Nations operations. Let me tell you, as much as the Indian Army has done, they are respected in the United Nations for their professionalism as much as our army officers are respected out there. But at the end of the day, the manner in which the Pakistani looks at money, perhaps the soldier looks at it. It's part of his character, and this has been their bane, perhaps, and it has upset their overall capabilities because they tend to start looking at that aspect more than their profession.